Shabbat Shalom and Maranatha. Welcome to the Septuagint versus the Masoretic YouTube channel, the only ministry of its kind that looks at the truth of the Bible, comparing the Septuagint and the Masoretic text translations to see if there are any big differences and is it even important. So we look at the truth of the Word of God. These are the scriptures. The Septuagint is the scriptures that existed in the time of the New Testament church. That came even before Jesus Christ manifested in the flesh. And then we have the Masoretic, which is on the right-hand side, which was not completely finalized until 1,000 years after Jesus Christ already lived. So today we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 29. We're closing out this book in the next few videos here. And verses in this chapter. And verse 5, we see the first difference. It says here, He led you 40 years in the wilderness. This is Moses speaking to the sons of Israel. However, in the Masoretic, it says, I have led you. So we can see that Moses is giving the credit to Elohim, to Adonai. And it says here, your sandals were not worn away off your feet, versus your shoe is not waxen old upon your foot. So we can see a difference of footwear. One is wearing sandals, one is wearing shoes. Verse 8, I gave it for an inheritance. I gave it versus we gave it. Okay, where's the we? Oh, we smote them. I gave it. Okay, so in the Masoretic, it's giving the credit to we versus the Septuagint, rather, saying that Yah did it. It was Elohim that did this, that gave them the inheritance, versus Israel just doing it on their own. We see the first big difference in this chapter. In verse 9, it says, You shall take heed to do all the words of this covenant, that you may understand all things that you shall do. The Masoretic renders it this way, Keep therefore the words of this covenant, and do them, that you may prosper in all that you do. So this is a rather deep topic. We have on one hand the Masoretic text saying, if you keep the covenant, you keep the commandments, etc., you're going to prosper in all you do. You're just going to be prosperous. You're not going to, not that it's not saying this, but by implication it's saying you're going to have a good life. You're going to have abundance. That's not so in the Septuagint. It's not saying that this is a health and wealth gospel, prosperity message that if you obey, you'll be blessed, point blank, just full stop. That's all that's going to happen. No bad, just good. That's not what the Septuagint says. That's not what the Word of God says. In actuality, it says, when you do the words of this covenant, when you obey, you will be able to understand all things that you shall do. So a lot of people, when they are keeping Torah or they're trying to keep Torah, they're motivated they have a desire to obey Adonai, to obey Yah. Sometimes it's hard to understand what are the things that we should be doing. How do we keep the Shabbat? What's the important part of the law? How do we prioritize what is a more important law, for example, especially when it comes to the Shabbat? Are we supposed to work our jobs? Obviously not, but can we do certain types of work, like helping somebody who's in an emergency? So these kinds of things will allow us to have the discernment to know what kinds of things we shall do, whether it's in the context of obeying the Torah, the commandments of Adonai, or is it in terms of understanding all things that we do in our life? Could be that. It's hard to say. Leaves it open to interpretation, but it most definitely is not that we prosper in all that we do. It's not, that's not something that is promised. If you just keep the law, everything will prosper with you. You're going to be like Job before the trials. No, it's because the cause and effect here is that if you heed to do all the words of this covenant, then you may understand. And it's not even a definite. It's not that you will understand. You may understand. You may be able to understand all things that you shall do. So that is a deep topic. Once again, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but I thought maybe that should be enough for this video. For the purpose of this video, I should say. Now we're going to look at verse 12. Verse 12 says, oaths into his oaths versus his oath. So there are many oaths that are part of the covenant. As many oaths versus which Yah, your Elohim, makes with you. So this verse, the reason why I point out this verse doesn't seem to be a big difference is because the word many here just backs up and confirms that, yes, it is indeed plural. It's not a singular oath. Verse 13, appoint you, that he may appoint you to himself for a people, versus establish you. Versus establish you today for a people to himself. So it's one thing to be appointed, to be anointed, to be chosen, versus to be established. Okay. It's not a huge difference, but it is more of a technical difference, I would say. And it says your Elohim. So that you can see the ownership there versus an Elohim. It's just, another Elohim, perhaps. Or not so much of a relationship going on there. In verse 16 to 17, there are no brackets or parentheses in the original. So we can see that these verses in the Masoretic they begin with a bracket and end with another bracket. And in the Septuagint, there is no bracket. It's not like an aside or something. It is part of the main script. It's part of what is being said. It's not like an insertion to help the reader understand. It's actually part of the dialogue here. Verse 18, bitterness, gall and bitterness versus gall and wormwood. Both are bitter, but just to outline that difference. Verse 19, it shall be, if one shall hear the words of this curse, and shall flatter himself in his heart, saying, let good happen to me, for I will walk in the error of my heart, lest the sinner destroy the guiltless with him. That's quite a mouthful. So I'm going to just look at these verses side by side. It come to pass, when he hears the words of this curse, that he bless himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, though I walk in the imagination of my heart, to add drunkenness to thirst. So we can see there's a pretty significant differences here. What are they? So in the Septuagint, they are not blessing themselves. No, rather, they're not blessing themselves. They are flattering themselves. They are deluding themselves. They are not also guaranteeing peace to themselves. They're saying, may good happen to me. They admit that they are walking in error. It says here, I walk in the error of my heart. Whereas, which is like nihilism. But to add drunkenness to thirst, so they aren't admitting they're walking in an error, in a wrong way. They're just saying in the imagination of my heart. It's neither good or bad. It's just, it is. Whereas in the Septuagint, it is admitting there's a confession somewhat of an error of their heart, that there's something that isn't in alignment with what is good, with what is the will of Elohim. So the portion here, it says, and to add drunkenness to thirst. means that someone is thirsty, but you made them drunk as well, on top of their thirst. And you did not address their needs, which was thirst. In fact, you made them worse off by getting them drunk. So the sinner, on the other hand, in the Septuagint where it says the sinner destroy the guiltless with him, means that this person who deludes himself is negatively influencing or affecting his neighbor. So the person, let me just repeat that. The person is deluding themselves because he's flattering himself in his heart, saying, what could happen to me, I'm going to walk in the air of my heart. So this person, this sinner, is going to destroy the guiltless with him. He's influencing in a negative way or affecting his neighbor by his own life, the way he's living. Verse 20, flame out versus smoke, and then attach themselves versus lie upon him. So where is that? Attach. The curses of this covenant shall attach themselves to him versus they'll lie upon him. So it's, I guess the analogy I bring up here is it's like a virus. So the curses are attaching themselves to you like a virus versus a door falling on you like it's an accident. No, it's something that is intentionally, as a consequence of your actions. It's not something coincidental or accidental. It's something that is directly related to your behavior, your lifestyle. It doesn't just lie upon you. It attaches, the curses attach themselves to him or her. Verse 23, burning salt versus salt and burning. So we can see one thing versus two separate things being described. We also see a green thing being described, which is all plant life, versus grass, which is specific only to grass. Verse 26, we have an addition of worshipped them. Worship them was added. Verse 27, exceedingly angry, versus anger was kindled. We have an omission as well of the word the book, written in the book of this law. In regards to the book, it's of this law. It's not just in this book, it's the book of this law. So what is the law? It's the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. Verse 28, very great indignation versus great indignation. So we can see different levels of even indignation. And that's it for this chapter. So thank you very much for your time. May God bless you and make your way prosperous. Until next time, I will look at Deuteronomy chapter 30. And this is the Septuagint versus the Masoretic channel. Please subscribe. Please like the videos. And I just pray that I continue to post more videos more frequently to complete this project of looking at the Bible from cover to cover, starting with the Old Testament, Genesis to Malachi, I believe. And we're wrapping up the first 5 books of Moses. It is quite a ambitious project to undertake, but it's in my heart to do this, and I just pray that Elohim will help me to do this and present this in a manner that will be helpful to others, that there would be a spirit of discernment to understand what we should do, what we should be doing, just like was talked about in this chapter. So thank you very much once again, ladies and gentlemen. Shabbat Shalom, Maranatha. Till next time.